Gone are those days when people believe that construction, building, or architectural, the industry or field was reserved just for the men. Today, more and more women are daring into the profession and become role models for young girls. The architectural field is one that demands design skills, the ability to manage complex projects. How do the women manage all of these? In today's edition for Turn Up, we focus on women in architecture. Stay with us. Now you're watching Turn Up live in Douala, Cameroon, and the program is Turn Up. And today, just like in every edition, we call on women to push forward for gender parity, raise their voices against social ills from communities and movements that will impact change. And today we talk on women in architecture, and we have invited women who have dared into the profession. They have a wider, rich knowledge on architecture, be telling us about their challenges and how they have tried to overcome their hurdles. We'll be right back. Now we have invited brilliant women. Women will be telling us about women in architecture. We have ADELINE SEDE. She is the CEO of Fab Afrique. She's equally the brain behind corporate women in leadership position or in leadership. You're welcome to the program.
Hi, Maureen.
Now, it's not the first time you come to the program.
No, this is the second time actually.
Now, I'm just curious, like, to find out now, why are you so interested in lifting women or pushing them from one step to another, especially when it comes to leadership?
I think we have to tell our stories somehow, and it only takes a woman to help to push a woman. Over the last few years, let's say the last 8 years, I've been engaged in different women initiatives, and my concern is that more and more women are shying away from projecting themselves and the things that they do. So this program in particular was just one of my initiatives to help push women. All right.
Now we have Brenda Wete. You are a certified architect and a member of the Cameroon National Order of Architects since 2008. You had a first degree and master degree from the Technical University Berlin, Germany. You're equally welcome to the program.
Thank you, Maureen.
Now I'm struggling to ask now, how do you blame, because I know people know that the building field is not reserved for the men. Is that a judgment of society today?
I would say it's still the judgment that it is a field for men, because people are still very surprised when they meet a woman who's in the field of building as an architect. And also I have met some fellow engineer, civil and structural engineer ladies, so people are usually surprised to find women in the field.
Now, how do you try to blend, let's say, family work with a profession which is people regard to be very difficult for a woman?
Well, I don't do my profession thinking of how people see it. I simply do the work that I've learned to do and that I love to do. So I just work, and then I take care of family when I can.
All right. Now, before we start the discussion proper, I want us to watch this report. It's an architect telling women or young girls that they should dare into the profession. I want us to watch. We'll be right back.
We make up 50% of the population, and we don't make up 50% of the architecture population. So just the numbers alone tell you that we're underrepresented. But I think girls, they've had, maybe at one point in their life, was very exploratory. And then over time became less playful, more sedentary. I think it's important for girls to start reaching out again. Start playing more, start being more competitive. I think that is where girls really need to focus on, is being just a lot more vocal. Keep raising your hand, keep being out in front, always sit in front, never sit in the back. And if you sit in the back, make sure you're noticed. girls need to be there. Without our voice, you will have a one-sided world, and you will not be able to make decisions, and you will not be at the table. And you have to be at the table in order to make decisions and to be heard. And I think that's why girls should do it. Plus, if you have a passion for something, just do it. Just get those Nike shoes on and just do it. I enjoy it. I think that's what they should do.
She is enjoying the profession. Why not you? If you want to react on today's program, you can send us your reactions on the number you're seeing on your TV screens. You can equally tag us on our Facebook page. You just have to type Canal the English and you have all the past editions. You can equally tag us on a Turn Up page and you have all the past editions of the program Turn Up with 6 Empowered Women and the Girl Child. It's quite exciting to have women talk about a profession that people believe is just a reserve for the men. I will get into the discussions right away. I'll start with Brenda, because people are like, they want to know what is architecture. So many people don't know what it's all about. I think we'll start from there, try to give a definition of what architecture is all about.
Thank you, Maureen. Architecture is a beautiful field. I'll start with that because I'm totally in love with it. Architecture is a field of work that encompasses, first and foremost, conception. Conception of spaces for an end user. So spaces for people, for animals, or for objects, as in machinery, for example. And further on, after the conception, it encompasses the technical development of this concept with respect of the law and of regulations of technical rules as well. And then the realization of this concept that has been developed technically. So architecture basically has a few essential or keywords. There's conception, there's technical development, and then there's the realization and especially the end user. Within all of that, you have to respect nature, you have to respect the rules of science, and you have to respect the rules of the law and social cultural context rules.
Now, since you talk about conception, now is it possible to like decipher, or let's say a girl, let's say like a girl who's like a 6-year-old who starts drawing, can you like determine if she can be an architect or not? At that age, is it possible for you to start grooming that child becoming an architect?
Well, grooming you certainly can, but to say if she's going to be an architect for sure, I don't think so. You can probably notice if the child is interested.
Is it possible to get it from a child? Is it possible? And then orientate the child towards that?
Absolutely. I would say if the child is naturally creative, that would probably be one aspect that would let you know that there's a possibility for this to be able to happen. And then, okay, I would say if you want to groom the child towards that, absolutely, then of course you let the child be exposed to building projects, to looking photographs of buildings, etc., and see what her interests are in that sense. But you obviously, as for any profession, you let her be free to be able to choose and to see if she goes naturally towards that line of work. There are also a lot of, I'd like to call them myths, so to say, about the fact that you need to be very good in either, say, mathematics or physics to do architecture. You do need some understanding, basic understanding of such subjects. Basic understanding?
Yeah, well, and what are the subjects?
Physics, mathematics for sure, but architecture is very much wider than that. So you don't necessarily need to be an expert in those things. If you absolutely hate physics, you just may not be quite comfortable in some parts of architecture, because there are subjects you have to do that have to do with structural dimensioning, that is making sure that the building can stand, that you're designing, or the space. It could be even open spaces. But architecture is very wide. So you don't necessarily have to be an expert in these fields, but you do need to be somewhat science oriented to be able to do architecture.
Now what pushed you into the sector?
I almost fell into architecture accidentally, almost accidentally.
Really?
As a teenager, I was fairly balanced my school subjects. I could do very well in art subjects. There's a history,
The same in
art
science
as in not
subjects.
science, but history, geography.
You were
psych,
better
and
in arts than science.
I was quite good in both. I was, I would say, in languages maybe the best, and quite good in science subjects as well as in art subjects. At some point, I was advised to do civil and structural engineering because I was quite good in math. And also, I remember I grew up in Yaoundé, so I always drew a lot. Ever since I can remember, I've always drawn. And I've always tried to draw things I've never seen before. So basically create in my mind something. I would start by drawing things I've seen to learn how to draw, and then I would start creating things. So there was the aspect of always wanting to do something that had to do with creating, conception. And then okay, so I was good in math, but then I was also told maybe do civil and structural engineering, and then it was like, well, you need to do a lot of math and physics and chemistry.
And did your parents like encourage you into the field, or you like something that you wanted to do at all costs?
My parents basically oriented me to do what I would like to do. They actually would have wished for me to do things that they saw that I was naturally very good in, which was languages. And very naturally, I was good in history without trying very hard. But I like challenges. So I knew that I'm very logic-oriented as well. And so doing mathematical problems was more interesting to me. So my parents did not necessarily guide me towards that. They just guided me towards what I wanted to do. And initially I was supposed to do, I actually had a scholarship to do medicine. And then I found out through some friends who were civil and structural engineer students, and they saw how much I drew, and they told me, well, then they told me more about architecture. And that's how I got interested in it. And
all right. Yeah. Now, I'm trying to, like, out of curiosity, the ratio of men and women, let's say in a class, when you started off, was it like, do you have the we're talking about gender balance here?
Yes. Well, that's, first of all, I'd like to say it was in a different country. This was in Germany, where the knowledge about architecture and the exposure of women to such subjects is wider. So really, when I started school, I would say it was about 40% women.
But in Cameroon?
In
is there
Cameroon,
reality?
they're very, I don't know what the exact percentages of women who are lady architects, but it's really low.
But what did your friends tell you about? The others who are architects, the other female architects? What is the experience? What did they share with you about that? Studying in Cameroon and becoming an architect. Is it a reality in Cameroon today?
There are architectural schools in Cameroon today. I think there should be somewhere around 4 or 5 schools. And there are lady architects. I'm not sure how many students are girls. But we were at the Women in Architecture talk, we were with one lady architect who's a teacher. So I would say that it's something that is there. I don't think it's there's enough awareness as far as young ladies doing architecture. But within the Order of Architects, we have no problems at all. I mean, the last and only recently.
We have more women than men in the corps, or we have the men.
No, there are very many more men. But the last president of the Order of Architects, for example, Madame Ledoux, she is a lady.
She's a lady.
She was, yes, and she was a lady when I got into the order as well. So there are ladies, but there are definitely very many more men.
All right.
In the field.
Now, I want to say we got interested in the topic when I attended a roundtable conference organized by ADELINE SEDE. It was on women, corporate women in leadership, and she had to focus on women in architecture. I was so interested, and let's watch this report. We'll come back and we'll talk with ADELINE SEDE. Mipo Chunkwuetik Flo is an architect. She's one of the few women breaking grounds or striving in the sector despite all odds.
The field of architecture is in Cameroon. I would say that it is not really easy for architects to express themselves in Cameroon.
It talks of gender imbalance in the architectural field in Cameroon. She equally frowns at the education and orientation given to the girl child from her tender age.
Yes, I think that today we need to educate our young girls to make them believe in themselves, to make them know that they are able to do what men or what young boys can do. The problem is that at home, when the young girl is trying maybe to do something, maybe is playing, building maybe a house, you say, oh no, don't do that, it is for men. No. You have to try to look at the young girl and see what is her passion, and then encourage her in what.
The Cameroon National Order of Architects can hardly boast of 300 members. A deficit blamed on the lack of interest by students, especially the girls.
In Cameroon, we have many people do not know about architects. They know they have better knowledge in structural engineers. Because when you look at the number of architects in Cameroon today, there are few architects as compared to structural engineers. That's the problem. That is why when you go on the field now, you will see that many people do not call for architects when they need to build.
According to Edith, her challenges are gender-related.
As a woman, it is not really easy because in Cameroon, people consider architecture as a profession for men. Meaning that when they see a woman doing architecture, it is as if the woman is not at her place. It is as if the woman is not able to do it like a man can do.
Organized by the Corporate Women in Leadership, the Roundtable Conference brought together female architects and other experts who shared their experiences, challenges and success stories in the field of architecture.
A roundtable of women in architecture is a very intimate way to reach the audience that is really targeted for. Most often we organize events which are, general, and it doesn't really attract the kind of people who will benefit immediately for. When I looked at women in architecture, I see that there are very few women in architecture here in Cameroon and around the world actually. So for me, this is an initiative that we can start pushing, we can start changing the stories of some of these young women looking at making career choices.
The roundtable also pulled the crowds of students who expressed the need to be architects but just needed guidelines from where to begin. Welcome back. I have Adeline SEDE. She's seated just beside me right here in the studio, and she's here to tell you about her experiences as well, because she's a brain behind Corporate Women in Leadership. Now, what got into your mind, or why did you take interest in female architects?
This time around, we used the female architect because we thought there are very few in Cameroon. Usually we organize conferences and we bring women from different walks of life. We bring women from the, from the telecoms and all the fancy industry, but we don't really touch the women in these industries that people do not talk about them. So we chose the women in architecture because it's they're rare to find, and we had a lot of challenges as well. So it wasn't for anything specific, why we chose them, but it was for something but it was simply because
it's a rare profession.
It's a rare profession.
What is the message? What were you trying to pass across as a message to women and young girls when you had to organize a roundtable, a conference on women in architecture?
I think we've lost touch.
What's the message you're trying to pass across?
We've lost touch. The young girls and women have lost touch with the reality of life. Because of the rise and rise of social media, the rise and rise of the entertainment industry, the rise and rise of all these things out there, they've lost touch with some of the things that they can do to actually earn a living. So you see most of them get into, into career, get into career that is really not beneficial for them, whereas they have skills or knowledge that can land them something bigger, something better. So this message, is simply to reach out to these women, these young girls. We are a magazine, Forbes Africa has a lifestyle magazine, and many young women, they inbox us and they tell us they want to be a model, they want to be a fashion designer, they want to be featured in the magazine, they want to be featured on the website, they want to be the musicians. And when I look at these and I tell myself, this is not right. we need to play a part to make sure we, you know, shake some of these things that is, you know, that is sleeping. You know, just wake it up. So bringing these women in, this female architect on a roundtable discussion, I believe is a way for us to get them to inspire people who are still dangling between making the right career choices.
I know it was not easy. How challenging was it to organize such a conference?
It was really challenging because first you didn't have the speakers were, you know, a big problem, was a major challenge for us. I want to thank Brenda again for being the first speaker who said, yes, I will. Because the moment she said, yes, I will, we said, we're going to do it then. Because we had actually cancelled the, you know, cancelled these.
Because we wanted the right persons.
Yes, we wanted the right persons.
Experts to talk about what they know and not bring any type of person does not master the profession.
Yeah, because we had a lot of interior designers, interior, you know, all these people who say, I'm an architect, but I'm an interior architect, I did architectural, you know, and for us, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for those who are registered, who are in the order, and who've got the license or the right to sign, as Brenda will confirm. So it was really difficult. The next challenge we had was getting the right participants. You know, we sent emails and letters to loads of schools, trying to get the, you know, the administration to send in the students, and it's just something that has not been done. So this was the first time, and I'm happy it was such a success because we had the speakers and the participants.
Now, what do you think women are so like? Do you think women are lukewarm to the profession? Is that all? You think there's a problem at the base?
I think it's just the orientation. I'll feel is the orientation. And my daughter, for example, I'll buy her toys like helicopter, I'll buy her a car, I'll buy her things, I'll buy her, well, like toys. Like, so I'll buy her things that will really start getting her to think, you know, like a man and act like a girl, as I said. I think it's everything from the base and really from the passion and the person. You know, as Brenda was saying, it's about guiding your child towards the right direction, but it's also getting them to do what they want to do. If you don't start building this from the base, then it will come out really wrong when she's an adult and has to make a choice.
Now, when we look at Cameroon society, where do you situate the problem?
I think the problem is with regard to how much we talk about it. Us, the media, us, the people who can organize things like this, us, the architects ourselves, you know, we should talk about it. The problem is, we're supposed to get out, reach people. We have to get out, reach people, talk about it. Because the more we talk about it and make people see the fancy side of the things that we do, then more and more people will generate interest. If I'm an architect and I've built, say, the best building in Douala, I should be proud of that. I should go on the TV and say, look, see that building? I built that. That is my work. Because the more people look about it.
Everybody wants to, like, show itself on TV.
For me, I mean, we were having this conversation. For me, it's not about showing yourself. It's just about being proud of what you've achieved. It's okay to celebrate success. You can celebrate it differently, but
that's why we could inspire young girls.
It's just time we start thinking it's not about me. It's about those out there who are struggling to make a choice.
Now, do you think there's gender balance?
I feel no.
I know you're not an architect, but I'm asking the question.
From the conference that we attended, you and I, you know, there isn't. There isn't. And that is why we said women in architecture, because we want to push more and more women to understand how these things work, to see that there are beautiful women. I mean, they were also beautiful under the thought, wow, you will think it's going to be some of these different kind of women, but no, they're actually female, beautiful women.
All right. So now, what's your interest?
My interest is spreading whatever words. Today is women in architecture. In May we're doing women offshore, women who've experienced offshore. So we'll be talking about women who've been into the waters, you know. So we're looking at this challenging, you know, my interest is looking at these challenging things that the fair women can do and get into the, you know, the nitty gritty and see why women can't do it and what women need to do in order to do it.
Now, do you try to follow up with the girls or the women that
we do follow up? We do follow up. We do follow up.
How do you do the follow up?
We have a mentor-mentee program that we run, and each time we have a leadership program, we encourage the speakers to connect with the audience, and we have set forms, we have frameworks that we use, and this framework is something that we supervise very closely, and within 6 months we want to make sure there is actually the job is being done. And after the 6 months, we host a kind of mega mentor awards where we recognize all these women who have really given their time to these young women.
All right, now I want us to watch another report from a woman who's calling on women. She's trying to empower women in one way or the other. Let's watch. We'll be right back.
The African woman has more in common with her sister than what separates us. So I believe that the men have had their shot at trying to make things work. Most African countries got independent from like 1958 to 1960. Those who came later, like the Zimbabwe's in the 1970s, but we're all like 40, 50 years old. And the men have been ruling in most places and not leading for these 50 years. But when there is a problem, 75% of those who suffer are women and children. Men don't get raped, it's the women. It's the women's sons who go to war to kill other people's sons. So we need to begin to have a say. You see, we don't have to run for political office because until we have a change in policy, restructuring in campaign finance, many women are never going to have access to the money. Because how does it work? You get into government, you steal the money, that is real stealing, you steal the money to put yourself back in power as the incumbent or to finance whoever you want. So until something changes with campaign finance, we might not be able to get a shot. But I keep saying the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. I may not be able to get on the podium to campaign at a rally, but this child is mine. His bedtime stories, I tell them. The songs he lives with, I tell them. I sing them. So I shape his narrative. I'm the one who will make sure that my son is not another wife beater, rapist who does not respect women. It is a woman's thing. She has the power. African mothers are really powerful. We may be covered with a hijab, we might be whatever, but underneath we know what influence we have over those kids. And that is why the woman in Africa must stop being apathetic and realize that the men have had their say. It hasn't done much. We need to come to the table and begin to make things happen because we are the ones who stand to lose if the continent does not function. Awesome Treasures Foundation is about the African woman helping the African woman because she has what it takes. We should stop being the people who climbed the ladder and then we took the ladder with us. We need to make a way for others to come up. Things should not be as hard for my sister who is coming behind me as it was for me because I'm here now. So if she didn't have a crush in her office and I get to be CEO, there must be a crush. She mustn't struggle as hard as I did to make it. So this is where most people miss it in sending aid to Africa because it's not really about planting methods or about money or about a well in the village or a pump in the center of the village. It's about another woman who understands you because the society gives her the same biff and griff as it gives you. So if she can make it, you know without being told that you can too. When I'm asked that who was my first mentor, I say my mom, but I didn't realize that that's what she was doing. I just saw her be. She didn't tell me you can't as a woman do this. I saw her go to Budapest, go to Tokyo, go all over the world as the vice president of the International Sociological Association, as a 37-year-old, the first African, the first black. She didn't even say she was the first anything. She just was. A lot of the empowerment we need to give the African woman is a mental empowerment. It's not about money.
Welcome back in the studio and with beautiful women with beautiful ideas and initiative, and you just have one thing in mind. You want to change the world, you want to change society, and we're here to talk about a female or women in architecture. We talk about female architects. Now I want us to talk about the challenges. Now Brenda, what are the challenges of women in architecture?
The first challenge is the surprise. The fact that people don't expect to see you as an architect. And because they're surprised, even if you say you're an architect and you talk about architecture, they're not really paying attention to you. It's hard to believe that what you're saying is credible. It's hard to believe that the person that they see in front of them can really do this.
They prefer to give the job to a man and give it to a woman
most definitely.
because they think the woman cannot do it.
Yes, and it's unfortunately so embedded in our context, in our social context, that I think it happens subconsciously. You know, I have had situations where I'll be on a construction site. That happens even more on the construction site because I think people have grown to accept a woman being in an office. But the construction site sort of hits truer that wait, this is a woman and she's supposed to, you know, build this thing. Is that real? You know, so I've had situations where I will be on a site with fellow men that I'm working with, and someone will walk in, obviously that doesn't know who I am or something in terms of as my role basically on the site. And the first thing always, it happens every single time. First person that they go to is the man they find on the site. Okay, fine. The man directs them to me, and we start to talk, and they keep looking back towards the man. It's pretty funny sometimes.
Really funny.
And I've gotten used to it, but usually it's the men that I'm with are uneasy because they keep saying, well, you should be talking to her, not to me. So that's something we can laugh about, but unfortunately it gets serious sometimes because you try to do, you have situations where you're not taken seriously as to the work you're doing, as to what you're asking to be done, and it unfortunately affects the work or the project at some point. So we have a lot of work to do in that sense, and I think it's also about educating people. I mean, I'll give
And they can trust in a woman.
that they can trust in a woman. I'll give a simile. It's not directly about construction, but until very recently, I was driving a pickup truck. And I started driving this truck, I don't know, about 6 years ago. And you know, at first, every time people would see me
In a truck.
in the pickup truck on the streets, you know, they would be so surprised. Of course, we have the slangs that go on. It's like, who gave you that? Why are you in there? You know, but the point is now I get that less. So I'm thinking, you know, I see sometimes other ladies in other pickup trucks, and I'm thinking, well, maybe with time people are getting used to the fact that ladies can drive this. I mean, I always tell people, I'm not lifting the truck, I'm just driving it. You know, it's the same. It's the same for architecture, for construction. You know, I design the building. I understand how it works. I understand how the building works. I don't need the criteria of being a man to understand how it works. It's about being able to design, being able to have the talent, being able to have the technical knowledge, and being able to manage that. And I mean, women manage homes, they manage other things, so why not manage a construction site?
Now,
Why not manage a construction
now,
project?
do you have more people soliciting women like you? If you have projects, interesting one, of course.
I would say more and more, because obviously I'm solicited, and
Before it was
I
not
know,
like that. It's changing
I would
these
say
days?
it's changing, and I know of one or two female architects in Cameroon who are doing really well. So I would say yes. I would say slowly, very slowly, but yes.
But Cameroonians don't have the culture of getting an architect before.
Well, in general,
getting
they
their
don't
houses.
there's not that much of that culture, unfortunately. That's a general problem, not only
That's-
about
it's a
for
general
women,
problem.
it's for the men as well.
Yeah.
There isn't that
Is
culture,
it
and I
about the
think
costs?
It is. I think it's a combined problem. I think on the one hand, architecture is about building, right? And I think people tend to feel, well, building is what? It's putting up blocks. And, well, anybody can do that, is what we tend to think. We forget that architecture is about not just blocks in which you stay, but you spend time, whether it's your working space or your living space, you spend lots of time within this space. And it affects your well-being, it affects your health, and it goes very far into how much output you can give, whether it be within your family or at work. And so you need experts, people who have learned to give you the optimal space that will help you to be able to live your life best, to work well, etc. So I think that's one of the problems is the fact that everybody feels that they can do it. If I may, I'll give another simile.
Okay.
When you buy a car, you give them the cost because you talked about costs, because it's true that it costs something. I'll get to that.
Because people generally complain about the cost.
About the cost, yes. Well, when you buy a car, you just buy it, right? If you felt that you could design or you could put the car together, you probably try to. But you know you know that you can't do it, so you just buy it as it is. Whereas the architect is the person who, in the place of the designer of the car, designs the car and manages the putting together of that car, so that at the end you just buy it as it is. So imagine your building project in the same way. You're just buying your building, including everything that comes before it: the studies, the planning, the management of the putting together of that building, and the final product. Now the problem is that most people feel, well, we can kind of put this together and we'll get something. Imagine if you're trying to put together your car. What would you end up with? You know, you're not even sure if it would even roll on the streets, right? So that's how we should look at architecture. And the cost now comes into the fact that, well, it's difficult, I think, for someone to imagine how much goes into proper planning of an edifice.
Now, the question that is, I don't know, but this question keeps coming to my mind. I want to like ask, can one make a living, especially as a woman, in the architectural field? Wow. Is it possible? Because maybe that would get people interested. The year that
is
you're
the
making
money in it?
Yeah. If you're making money, if you're making a living out of it, because nobody wants a profession where you get into it and then you can
pay your bills.
Pay your bills. You can't feed your family. You can't fend for your families.
I think I'm going to try to answer this in a very pragmatic manner. You can make a living, yes, I would say on the one hand, because there's so much potential, especially in our country. For there's still a lot of development to be done. So there's a lot to be done architecturally. There's really a lot. So in that sense, there's a potential market. It is not easy now, but easier, I'm sure, than it was maybe a few years back.
Right.
Because people are getting to know more and more about it and look for architects more than they did before. So anybody who would get into that now would probably have some trouble, you know, if they think they're just going to have as much money as you do when you are, say, employed. So there's some difficulty. But I think it's possible to make a living. Secondly, architecture is very wide. It's not only about building. You can do architecture and teach. You can do architecture and get into photography. You can do architectural photography. I mean, it's very wide. You can do architecture and specialize in the sociological aspects of architecture and do research, you know, to be able to help those who now design and build to have more material to work with.
All right, means we still have a lot of opportunities for young girls or women to get into the profession. That's what you're talking about?
Yes, we do.
Because there are certain areas, because people think that architecture is just like building houses, constructing houses, and signing projects. Is there a difference between a builder and an architect?
Oh, definitely. There's the architect is the, as it used to be called in the past, the master planner. So the architect...
So everything starts with the architect?
Everything starts with the architect. The architect designs and the architect coordinates everything that has to do with the building project.
Right.
So that is for the architect who works on the field and as far as designing and construction, because you can do architecture and be an architectural or technical expert in a company. So the architect, everything starts with the architect. You know, the person who wants a project sees the architect and listens to them as far as what their wish is. Now the architect has all of the technical background as far as the legal regulations, the scientific rules, the technical rules, and then the architect has to come up with what they have inside of them as far as artistic or inspiration to be able to conceive. And then the architect now gathers all other people who can be involved in the project and coordinates them, making sure that everybody is in their place and making sure that the project comes together such that there's no quack, there's no problem here or there. So the architect coordinates everyone else and has the vision for the project.
All right, it means a lot of opportunities for women. That's what you're telling women tonight. They can still get into the profession and make a living out of the architectural industry in Cameroon. Now I want us to get this message which talks about violence against women. We'll be right back.
afternoon, my sister. What is going on
This
here?
man and his daughter were caught committing incest.
Committing incest? What is incest?
Incest is having sexual intercourse with anyone related either by blood or by law.
I still don't understand.
By blood means between a sister and a brother, a father and a daughter, an uncle and a niece, or a mother and a son.
Oh, I see. But you mentioned by law too.
Yes. By law means any union that is bound and recognized by the law, like marriage or adoption.
What is going to happen to them now?
They are being taken to the police.
It's serious then.
Of course. And they will be imprisoned from 1 to 3 years and pay a fine of 20,000 to 500,000 francs.
Oh my goodness. This is terrible.
This is a message from LUCMEF Cameroon in partnership with UN Women and UN Trust Fund. Let's say no to violence against women and girls.
Welcome back. The debate is still on. We're talking about women in architecture, and this time around we'll be talking with ADELINE SEDE. She is a CEO of Fab Afrique. You saw her earlier on in the program, and we'll continue discussion with her this time around. ADELINE, now, what's next?
What's next for us? Now we've done women in architecture, and we have other fields that we've planned along the way. That in May we'll be having women in...
Are there rare fields just like architecture, or we have fields that more women are getting already into it?
No, we want
it already.
No, we want fields that are not yet tapped, that have not been tapped. Because every year we have a big conference which is corporate women in leadership. And in this one we really target the women in the corporate institutions, women in administrative positions, but then we're leaving out the other women that are not being talked about. So we're going to be doing women in offshore, we're going to be doing women in finance, we're going to be doing women in... So it's all this come together. But after the last roundtable discussion that we had an interest from those who came down from Yaoundé, and they want us to organize the same thing in Yaoundé. So I think it is something that we need to do over and over again, because you just can't talk about something and forget about it. You talked about follow-up. You know, we have to look for ways to follow it up all the time. So we also move into Abidjan in November this year, where we'll be hosting a corporate women in leadership. And for the corporate women in leadership, we're looking at women in the different sector. It'll be telecoms, it'll be aviation, it'll be insurance, it'll be any woman decision-making position, and who is kind enough to talk to other women and inspire them.
All right. Now, if you have a young girl walk up to you and say, I'm really interested, but I don't have the means, my parents don't have the means. Now, how do you handle it?
Normally, I've not had that situation before, but I know there are a lot of funding opportunities out there. And
but there are people who don't know how to go about it.
People don't know how to go about it. So if someone comes up to me and say, listen...
Let's say like in female architects. Somebody wants to become parents, don't have the means. She doesn't have the means to undergo the studies. Now, how do you advise her? How do you orientate her? How do you handle the situation?
First, I'll say, funding and grants. You know, I mean, lately my daughter had a grant for about 2 million for something that she wanted to do. You just need to know how to navigate your ways around the internet
and get the right persons.
Yeah, and get the right persons as well. You know, so you can also get a part-time job, and you can babysit. There are lots of things that you can do as a young girl to raise money if your parents don't have. And if you have half the money, then it's easier for you to find the other half. You know, but you need to meet someone halfway.
All right. Now, for how long have you been into this?
More than 8 years. More than 8 years. Started in the UK 8 years ago, and in Cameroon we've done it for 3 years. 3 years now we've been doing it in Cameroon. We were in Libreville last year. This year we are in Abidjan. We're still doing it in Cameroon as well.
Now, what is your motivation? What's your motivation?
I don't like doing the same things all over and all over and all over. I like to move on and move on and move on. So I keep thinking about what next. So now that I've trashed these, what next? Now that I've trashed these, what next? So it's all about keeping myself motivated by choosing some things that are really challenging and seeing how this can drive me to achieve.
You love challenges?
Of course.
And you try to overcome these challenges?
Yes.
Now, what's your secret?
My secret is being me, being Adeline, and having that generous heart to see that I support people, I help people, I direct people. I mean, the mentor-mentee program that we do is quite a show, you know, to show that we do this for free. No one pays for it. I sponsor it personally. Even the award ceremony that I do.
Now, we got one of the sponsors in the report saying that women need to help other women grow. That will be on the same position. Are you with her? And how do you help her?
Definitely, I am with her. I am with her 100%, and that is why each time I tell some of my male colleagues that I'm doing a woman in leadership, they keep saying, "Oh, it's all about women." That it's overrated, but I don't think it's overrated. Women, you need to come up with ways to support each other. Maureen, you were there. You did moderate one of the panel, and you gave me your time free of charge. You know, this is your own way of contributing. This is your own way of giving back. You know, so I think you're doing it. I'm doing it. Brenda, for speaking up, is doing it. So we should all come together and just do it. You know.
All right. Now, Brenda, what's the take-home message?
I would say to young ladies, first and foremost, believe in yourself. I would say, you know what you're capable of. You know what you like to do, most importantly, and go for it. Just go for it. Just do what you think you can do. Don't constrain or limit yourself to what maybe people have said you should not do because you are not a woman, or because it is only men who do. Why? You know, if you think you can do it and if you like to do it, find out more about it, research about it, and see if you can. Go for it.
Don't you think our culture too is a problem? We have cultural barriers as well.
Well, we have cultural barriers, but they are opening up. Just now, Adeline talked about social media, etc. Unfortunately, as she says, the part of social media that a lot of the girls are looking at are the parts that have more maybe to do with, I don't know, their bodies or such things. Whereas the social media can show you that, I mean, our culture is evolving, whether we really like it or not, and we can see maybe in what sense it can be positive, in the sense that social media and internet, the opening up to the world can make a lot of young girls see what else they're capable of. So there's a lot that girls can do. And it's not about, as far as work is concerned, and I say this a lot, as you asked me at the beginning of the show, when I go out to work, I'm not thinking I'm a woman and I'm going to work. I'm thinking I have work to do and I have to get it done. And that's what the girls should think about, the young ladies. It's like, okay, there's so many things we can do out there, and we are part of our society. What can we do to contribute to the development? What can we leave for our children besides bringing them up? What can we leave for them afterwards? And that you just think about what you like, and if it's in a field where there are a lot of men for now, well, it's because you haven't gone there yet as a woman. Go there.
So every woman has to just believe in yourself. That's what most women don't do these days.
No, they don't.
They want to be like others, and they don't believe in themselves. Adeline.
That's very true. Most often we look at what other people think about us. We want to be, how did I say it? We want to be, I want to put it the right way, but we want to be validated by others, and that is not right.
So what's the take-home message to young girls tonight? And
young girls tonight, what I'll say is...
We're talking about female or women in architecture or female architects. Now, what's the take-home message?
Take-home message is that, as Brenda said, believe in yourself. If you think you have what it takes and you want to venture into a career that is challenging and that has little or no women, please do go there. There are no women there because you've not been there. So make it a point to go there. And also, young girls out there listening to us, you need to reach out to FabAfrique. All our handlers on social medias are at FabAfrique. So reach out to us, because we always have one thing or the other going on for young women, and even some women who are already in mature stage and they want to change their careers. Last time we had a woman from Orange who wants to, to change what she was doing to something else, and she reached out to us.
Really?
So, yeah, so you can change your career if you're not happy and you made a mistake of doing one thing and you want to go to the other. It's okay. Reach out to us and we can really advise you on how.
Just like Brenda did, you can also be a female architect. All you have to do is just believe in yourself. The program Worst Turn Up. If you want to tune in next time, just have to watch next week on Wednesday. You're going to be on the program. Still, thanks very much.